Hello everybody and welcome back to another video of Minecraft Building Basics. Today we're going to be looking at fences and how you can use them in your Minecraft builds, not just as fences, and we're also going to be covering fence gates. So anyway, here are all the different types of fence and gates. Now you'll notice that we have all the wood types and then we just have nether brick fence, which doesn't have a gate yet. Now all of these are very different and I'm just going to show you how these don't need to be used just as fences or fence gates. So let's start off with the first thing you can do. So over here you can see we've got this sort of typical house structure, this sort of usual walls and pillars, and what we've got here is we've got some fence gates like that, which sort of gives this nice sort of circular shape to it. It also gives a bit more detail to it, and all you need to do is basically place a dark oak fence gate if you're doing spruce, for example, and just do it like that. Now loads of different types of fence go with different types of logs if you're trying to pair them like that, so just use the one which is closest. I'd say dark oak goes best with spruce, and I use spruce the most for this sort of style building, so that is fine for me. But we're going to move on to the other side, which is just another way you can use fence. So this is if you're doing like a 5 wide and you have 3 windows, you can put a nice fence down the middle for some extra support or some extra sort of detail. It has a bit more depth, it's a different level, it's slightly inward compared to everything else, and it just gives a bit more sort of structure to the whole thing, and it's really, really nice. I mean, if I removed it, it would still look quite cool. It depends what you're going for. But this gives it extra depth, which is very much needed in this sort of build. Now, done that, let's move on to this. And this is how you can use fence as a rope. And this is very common in a lot of building, using fence as rope. And now here I've used nether brick fence, but you could use whatever. I've done a modern sort of string of lanterns. I mean, it's slightly modern inspired because of the black stone, and we've got this sort of more dynamic colour contrast, but I think this is quite a cool thing you can do, and it's also just showing that this can be used as a rope. Now I am just going to quickly pop over into my adventure map to just show you a few more examples of this as a rope. Now okay guys, we're in my massive adventure map, let's move over to the right place. So let's look at what things we can do with fence. Now this sort of rope style is really, really, really cool. You can see this sort of is going between 2 buildings. It's really, really, really nice. And I mean, you can hang sort of banners from it and put carpet on it. Also, actually, while I'm here, I just realised there's another thing I was actually forgetting about throughout this whole video. Portcullises. It's really, really cool if you're doing a castle design, but fence works really nicely for that. But yeah, I mean, this is really, really, really cool. It's slightly difficult if you haven't done it before, but you do need to just do a sort of diagonal. Well, if you're doing diagonal, it's more complicated, but it is just, I mean, you have to get the right sort of, I mean, there's a sort of curve to it, but it's not too major in this. Also, another thing I missed out, windows. You can do windows with fence if you don't do it with glass, because it sort of gives a sort of idea of the sort of barred windows and that sort of thing, and windows split into 4 and that sort of thing. It works nicely for that, especially for medieval styles of building. But let's leave my adventure map now. So yeah, you can see that that is very, very useful. It does work really nicely as a rope. And now let's move on to chandeliers. So chandeliers are a classic thing you can do with fence, and I mean, this looks really, really cool. This is a very sort of almost sort of evil chandelier, if you like, and that's one thing you can use nether brick fence for. And so what we have here is we have this sort of fairly simple structure hanging from a chain which is connected to a fence post. You can do that there, but we're very quickly going to cover just all of these designs of chandeliers. A few of them are quite big. So this one is basically a square and then you have a sort of cross on top. This one is a square with sort of fences sticking out on each of the sort of middle of the sides, and then a cross on top. It's basically just you add one there to this one, but it adds a bit, it makes it bigger at least. Now this one is similar, you just have this, but you have a sort of circular shape on top, or octagon shape. And then this one is this very similar, it's just repeating that again. This is definitely octagonal at this point, and you've just, I mean, it's probably going to be easier for you to pause the video than anything, because this is a bit weird for me to explain, but I can do a sort of over-the-top view like this, if that is helpful. Now, of course, chandeliers are really, really cool if you're wanting to do a sort of mansion or castle build, and I mean, there's no better way than to use fence. I mean, walls could be used, but really use fence, it works the best. So now we're going to be looking at this, and this is a nice design of roof, and basically, well, we've got the stairs, of course, but what we're looking at is this beautiful little fancy part at the top, which is a really common thing, especially sort of, I've noticed this in British railway stations or railroad stations, but it's really, really, really cool. It gives it extra sort of depth, and really what you need, mangrove fence, well, it just depends on what type of stuff you're using for the rest of the roof, but say mangrove fence, then mangrove fence gate, mangrove fence gate, blah, blah, blah. Can't speak today, but so on, and that is a really nice design. It makes it sort of less sort of touching the ground constantly, because if you're doing that, that's a lot of layers down. What you can then do is do that. You don't want to open them though. It's the same thing with trapdoors if you're trying to use them. I've got a tutorial on that actually if you want to look at that. The link will be in the description. But yeah, I've got another example in my adventure map, so let's pop over there. Okay, yes, so over here we have this amazing elven city, although I am going to basically make it ruined very soon. But I'm just going to show you some very cool things very quickly, because yes, we looked over in the other world about this, and this is it in action, especially in elven style of building, and it's really, really cool if you're wanting to do some sort of, I don't know, Lord of the Rings inspired build. This is something really cool you can do, fairly simple, and it's just adding a bit, you can have a bit of contrast to the rest of the roof like I've done there, and I mean, you can have it spreading around like that, so you don't have to put the fence gate in the middle if you don't want to, and I think it's a really, really cool thing. I mean, I think it works probably best for elven style building, and you can see this massive mansion over here. We've got this, and I mean, look at it. It does just add a bit of extra sort of depth to the whole build. So there we go. Yeah, so you can see there, it's really cool in some sort of medieval or elvish style building. But now let's move on to the final method. So we've got this cool little custom tree here, and we need to have some sort of smaller branches coming off. We've got fences here, and I mean, it works really, really nicely. Slightly smaller, I mean, it's slightly different colour, but it does add a lot more. If I was to replace all of these with birch wood, which I will do right now, you can see that really doesn't give the right effect. It's way too blocky, and, well, it's a bit too overwhelming. You might like it, but I think it looks better with the fence. Let's go back to that actually. So yeah, you can see that that's less over the top, more subtle, and it's a really good way to do a birch tree. I mean, this works best for birch trees. I mean, those are the ones that you're most likely to do with sort of very thin branches, but I mean, it does work with practically any type of tree if you're wanting a small branch, but this is just a cool example. But anyway, that is basically fence and fence gates covered. Now, if there's anything with fence and fence gates that I missed out, do tell me in the comments down below, as I'd love to see what you've managed to do with fence and fence gates in Minecraft building, and I'd love to learn a few new techniques. Also in the comments down below, please tell me any sort of topics you'd like me to cover in my Minecraft building basics series. We're usually going back to sort of basic building materials, showing how you can use these for really cool designs like sort of stairs. We've got trapdoors, those are two of the previous tutorials. But if there's anything particularly you'd like me to cover, do tell me in the comments down below, as I'd be happy to do a tutorial on it. So anyway, without further ado, if you enjoyed, please hit that like and subscribe button, and I'll see you all in the next video. Goodbye!